basically nobody got in the Hall of Fame this year. You need 75% of the vote to get in. Nobody got 75%. The closest person was Curt Schilling, who landed at 71%. Also running in the close margin would be Barry Bonds, who had 61% vote, and Roger Clemens, 61.6. A couple other notables on the list: Scott Rowland, Omar Vizquez, Billy Wagner, Todd Helton, Gary Sheffield. But obviously Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, those are the big names on the list. Those are the two biggest names associated with, obviously, let's address the elephant in the room, steroids, the asterisks, the one thing in baseball that kind of made things unfair, uneven. Baseball's rough. That's why the people was juicing, man. That's why folks was juicing, bro. That's why Barry Bonds felt the need to juice up, man. And I feel like it's almost a reminder. It's tough for Barry, man, to get in on the week of Hank Aaron's death. I don't think if Hank Aaron would have died this week, I think Barry Bonds might have got 75% of the vote. Real talk. Because, you might have forgot. You might have want to give him some credit. But, Hank Aaron, bro, he's legit. His head didn't get bigger when he got his home run record. It's hard to give Barry Bonds flowers on the same week that Hank Aaron passed away. R.I.P. Hank. But fellas, did Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, do these guys deserve spots in the Hall of Fame? Is that something y'all could see ever happening, or is it pretty much a done deal for these guys? Hall of Fame or not for Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, fellas?
I think you got to let them guys in, man. The MLB, like you said, they had a crisis in the 90s where people weren't really watching the early 2000s. People weren't tuning in like they were. Like America's pastime was shifting to football. Scoring. We know in sports, fans want to see scoring. The MLB sold its soul. These same writers that are denying these guys in the Hall of Fame praised them when they were hitting these home runs. Everybody knew they were juicing. I didn't even know much about baseball back then. I knew they were juicing. I know a man's head, you know what I'm saying? His face shouldn't be all enlarged like that. I know these guys did not look like athletes, you know what I'm saying, typical athletes. So, yeah, the MLB, they should let them in. You can't just turn your back on them after you use them for all the money, the ratings, the revenue. Those guys are the reason you could pay the Bryce Harpers and the Mike Trouts. And now you don't want to let them in the Hall of Fame. I don't know, man. It's kind of terrible. Kind of just alludes to how baseball is still a bad product. They haven't figured it out. These are some people's favorite players. These are some players' favorite players, and you keep them out of the Hall of Fame. And they're keeping Curt Schilling out because he's racist and homophobic and all that. But still, the guy's conduct off the field shouldn't dictate, you know what I'm saying, how he get, his Hall of Fame stature. These guys put up amazing numbers regardless. Everybody was juicing. So let them all in.
Everybody's not getting in, though. That's the point.
So who are you going to let in? The no-name guy? Just nobody?
Nobody's getting in. Who's gotten in that was allegedly in the mix in the steroid era?
Yeah, but I don't know why. To me, like I said, it's just crazy to penalize guys that were doing what everybody knew they were doing. You didn't penalize them when they were doing it. And so they got to redo how they do voting in Hall of Fame, period. You letting these writers control too much of the narrative. That's a whole different topic, you know what I'm saying, the makeup of these writers. But right now, it's crazy. Let these guys in, man. I think they got, one more year maybe? I think next year.
I don't know how much of a different topic it is, T, because honestly, my thoughts on this is absolutely these guys deserve to be in. But I don't think the voting changes until we get new voters. I don't think they get in until we can get new voters, or it'll be the same kind of thing. It's just another classic situation where the MLB is shooting themselves in the foot. T already alluded to it. These are some people's favorite players, man. I played baseball. We used to watch videos of how Barry Bonds hit the ball, like his style, his swing, his technique, not him juicing up. Like, that man can hit a baseball. Like, everybody knows that. Roger Clemens is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Everybody who knows baseball knows that. It's not even debatable. If you took the steroids out of it, they'd already be in. So it's really just laughable. And I don't see it changing unless there's some type of new structure for voting or new people making the votes.
Yeah, I'm on board with Rome. I think that I mean, well, it's twofold for me. First, I got to agree with T too. I mean, baseball have wanted it both ways. They wanted to use these guys' celebrity, their likeness, all the attention that was getting them to their advantage and to their bottom line. But on the flip side, they want to exclude these guys and be judge, jury, and executioner of who goes into the Hall of Fame, which I get. It's their thing. It's baseball's thing. But you go down a very slippery slope with baseball, because in baseball, there's always been a history of players attempting to gain advantages. This is from the beginning of time. This is back from the 1800s. I mean, Babe Ruth. That's everybody's. That's the poster boy for baseball, right? Babe Ruth. What if I told you that Babe Ruth? There's accounts, there's records of him receiving injections from sheep testicles. That sounds crazy, right? That sounds like he was trying to gain an advantage to me. I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like he went real far to try to gain that advantage, right? And I think in baseball, you've always had that. Now, what if we got rid of every single Hall of Fame pitcher that used to put a little bit of the tack on the ball, a little bit of that tacky on the ball, so he could get a better curveball? What if you got every pitcher that used to spit in their hand before they threw the ball to put a little more juice on it, right? I mean, if you started doing things like that, you're never going to catch everybody in baseball. And I think that there's always been a history. I think that's a part of the baseball culture, is guys trying to gain competitive advantages. At the end of the day, we've got the public opinion that'll be able to kind of be the jury on that, right? The court of public opinion never fails. If you let a guy in the Hall of Fame and everybody doesn't respect it, it will be brought up every time his name is brought up. I do think most of these guys who are going to go into the Hall of Fame eventually from the steroid era, we'll bring it up when we talk about them. It's not like we're going to talk about Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and not bring up the fact that they were both juice. Like, we know that. That's already in our mind. So holding these guys out from the conversation, from the Hall of Fame, to me, it's no point. It's pointless now. You guys talk about Hank Aaron, and I can't continue this baseball segment without shouting out the big guy upstairs now, man. Rest in peace to Henry Hank Aaron. But if you remember how he handled the Barry Bonds situation, where Barry Bonds was headed about to break his record, Hank wasn't tripping. Hank Aaron wasn't like, no, this record shouldn't count. I mean, you could kind of tell he was a little salty, but he might be a little salty, someone about to break their long-standing record. But he never got up and said and denounced Barry Bonds, right? At the end of the day, like my man Texas fan said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard.